Andrew, good to see you as always.
Thanks, Tamsen. Great to be with you.
I'm excited. I feel like you and I have been on a long journey of unstuffing our lives together, and I feel like we've come a long way.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
let, let's talk a little bit about it because I've always been intrigued. You know, you were decluttering way before there was the word decluttering around. You've talked about it for a long time, and you've not only talked about it from a physical standpoint, but also really mentally, which I think is more important than anything.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I think what I've discovered over the last 25 plus years of doing this work is that how you think about, how you feel about, and how you interact with stuff is going to influence your outcome so much more than any of the other tips or tools I could share. Those are all secondary because the mindset, again, if we don't shift how we think about and how we feel about stuff, you're just going to end up on that hamster wheel of moving stuff from room to room, trying to solve an external problem when it's really a much more internal problem to begin with.
And what is that internal problem if we are constantly surrounded by stuff? I mean, you know, my journey is maybe it started a long time ago, but I know specifically the time I went through my divorce. And you remember this is around the time I met you, is that I said, every day I'm going home and I'm organizing and reorganizing and getting rid of things, and then got rid of everything. And it was very cathartic, and it was also gave me some clarity. And I've realized over time, as I reaccumulate things, I have to go and get rid of them again because that affects everything in my life if I have too much and I don't have it in the right place.
Right. So I think it often, if not always, returns, we need to return to our core values, really what is important to us. And of course, those change over time, but we should always have some core values that we are tapping into that we use as the benchmark or the deciding factor or factors when we're making decisions about should this stay or should it go, or should I even bring it into my life? If it doesn't provide comfort, convenience, or beauty, if it doesn't move you forward in achieving the things that matter to you. And from my point of view, it doesn't really matter what that is, right? It could be showing up on time for your kid's soccer game. It could be curing cancer. I don't think one is more important inherently than the other because it's what matters to you as an individual human being. How do you want to spend your time? What do you want to spend your time doing? Where do you want to put your focus? And often because our physical environment is not particularly focused, we end up losing time. And there's a statistic that says the average person will lose 1 year of their life looking for lost or misplaced items. And of course, nobody is going to lose an entire year looking for their keys or their mobile phone, right? I call it nickel and diming ourselves out of a year of our life because it's 5 minutes here, it's 10 minutes there. We'll tell ourselves one of our 200 lies. The average adult tells 200 lies a day. And we'll tell ourselves one of our 200 lies that I'm going to make up that lost time. But the truth is you can't make up the time once you've spent it. Right? We can bank money, we can't bank time. So the clock resets itself and we're either moving forward without friction or we're in that bottleneck of out of integrity with our values, trying to solve an external problem again, like where's my keys, where's my phone, where's my bag, instead of what is important to me and making our choices based on that. And then the stuff itself falls into place. It's really, as you know, it's not complicated. This isn't rocket science that I'm teaching people, but it requires a certain amount of attention. And if you're not willing to pay attention and be present in the moment, it's super easy to get tripped up.
Well, it requires attention, and it might not be rocket scientist, but I'll tell you what, science. But it does make you feel invincible when you figure out how to have a plan and how to be organized and how to be focused and how to have that productivity, because that's what we're all talking about these days, right? And we have, since you and I, every time we speak, there's more progress in the world. There are more distractions in the world. There's more ways to have what you call the deadly time thieves. What are some of those? Obviously, losing things is one of them, I assume. But what are some of the really deadly time thieves that we're not aware of?
So the seven, the seven deadly time thieves: interruptions, overcommitting, poor planning, multitasking, emails, meetings, and procrastination. Those are the 7 deadlies, and interruptions is at the top of the list. Now, often people confuse interruptions with distractions. And I jokingly say whenever I'm teaching and sharing this information, unless you have multiple personality disorder, it's unlikely that you're going to interrupt yourself, right? You can distract yourself, but you can't interrupt yourself. Interruptions happen externally, distractions are self-generated. So the first fork in that road is really getting clear about what's happening outside of you. Where are people tugging on you and pulling on you? And where are you just going, disappearing? And it's essential that we all find out where our concentrative limits are without any sort of judgment. We don't want to shame ourselves or be vulnerable to any sort of negative messaging around ADHD, or if you have limitations. Look, if you can only stay focused for 7 or 9 minutes at a time, you need to turn that into an asset rather than viewing it as a deficit. So if you can get a tremendous amount done in 7 minutes if you're super focused, right? But if after 7 minutes checking your email, you're off on Zappos, looking at a new pair of shoes, you just got to pull yourself back and say, right, so that's the breaking point. Now I know, set the timer for 7 minutes, stay in your sweet spot, and you'll get stuff done.
It's funny. I'll sit on my computer some days and I go from here to this app to this, and this opens up, and you just really do realize what that time suck does. And it's not only that; it's that you actually wind up getting nothing done. So I could sit here longer and waste more time. And you're one of the first ones that told me organize your email, your inbox, and I thought, what? I can't. What do you mean? I did my closet, Andrew. I did my desk. My purse is, organized to a T. You want me to do my inbox too? But I've realized now that I keep no more than 25 emails in my existing current inbox at any given time. And I put everything else into folders. And I've learned over time that sometimes I'm so organized that I can't find things. But it's the only way for me to not feel overwhelmed when I get up in the morning, or overwhelmed when I look at my phone that I have too much going on there.
Well, sure. And I think that we often think, because we're just simple animals, and because in a Pavlovian kind of way, we've trained ourselves and been trained by the culture that because email arrives instantly, it's like a game of ping pong or tennis, right? You got to immediately return the email. You don't have to immediately return the email. If your job is a customer service job and it's part of your job description to always be in your inbox and to always be monitoring the flow of emails, then sure, that makes sense. But for most of us, it is a low value activity to respond. It's just correspondence. We got along for 100 years with the mailman arriving once, or the mail person arriving once with mail. They drop it off in your mailbox. You check it. You reply. You don't reply. It takes 2 or 3 days for something to get back across the country. Nobody died because of it. It was not how we notified each other of anything that had any import or urgency. But suddenly, because of this, this immediacy of emails landing, we're constantly being barraged, and we have trained ourselves that we must respond immediately. And I'm all for answering email 2 or 3 times a day and breaking that thread immediately to set folks free.
You are doing a lot of other things along with decluttering and along with unstuffing lives, but you're really teaching people how to think and how to get projects done and how to be productive. Talk a little bit about the programs you're offering.
Oh, sure. Well, we've got our 10-week flagship program called the Unstuff Your Life system, where we take people through all the major clutter hotspots. Everything from, kitchens, closets, auxiliary spaces like basements, garages, and attics, offsite storage. I mean, so many people are just that slow, steady drip on their wallet of the money leaving. And of course, you feel the pain once every 30 days when it hits your credit card or your checking account. And then, 2 days later, you completely forget it, or you tell yourself one of your 200 lies. Oh, this will be the last month I keep offsite storage. And then 28 days go by and you're like, crap, how did that happen? I'm right back here again. What am I going to do? And so, we look at all of that in 10 weeks, and then we have a big graduation, and then we invite folks to join us for your next big thing, which is a 3-month project management elite coaching program where we support people in 90 days doing their next big thing, whatever that is. Because from, again, as you know, in my world, the clutter and getting organized is just the beginning. It's not the end of the
Mm-hmm.
journey. It's just setting you up
Mm-hmm.
for success. So once you are organized, now what do you want to spend your time doing? And so often people, they've made that the goal, right? Like, now I'm organized, and then
Right.
they're sitting around thinking, well, now what do I do with all my
What do
free
I do
time?
with this perfect desk and my clean email box?
Exactly. So we
Let me
built this
ask you.
program to support folks in really elevating things, and, as Emerald would say, taking it up several notches so they can really get the big stuff done.
Yeah, well, that's what it's all about. It really is the big stuff. Do you have a couple of tips for people that are trying to get organized, whether it's where to keep lists, I interviewed Paula Rizzo recently, and she's a big list person. And she said, she has a list for everything. Do you have a list? Do you have a journal? Do you have a book? Do you do it on your computer? What do you do to stay organized? Because
So
you've got yourself and all of us to deal with.
Right. So we use Asana here in my business, and Asana is a task management app. It was created by one of the founders of Facebook, Eduardo
Mm-hmm.
Saverin. He created that app, and it functions. It's very listy, so I like it.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
Trello is another one.
Yep.
It really. I don't have a preference. I mean, I have a personal preference for Asana, but
Right.
really anything that's going to help you park all of your notes in one place, but not something like Evernote, because Evernote is a little too agnostic, and you can throw
Right.
anything in there. You can throw images, you can throw websites. So I think it's another way to create a junk drawer in the cloud.
Sure.
So Asana or Trello or those kinds of programs are really focused on just being able to prioritize tasks or projects and chunking up all the bite-sized bits. Another tip is, often we will make something a single line item, like reupholster the dining room chairs, when we don't really take into consideration that there's 9 or 10 steps to that one item. So we end up underestimating or overestimating how long things are going to take, because we think, oh, I'm going to reupholster the dining room chairs, so what do I need? I need 45 minutes for that. Well, not really, because you have to remove the fabric, you have to measure the fabric, you have to go shop for the fabric, you have to reapply the
Mm-hmm.
fabric. So we need to make sure that we are always chunking up single line items to make sure that there aren't any sub steps that are required to actually complete the parent task.
Gosh, that's so true. That is so true. I look at some of my tasks and I was like, this could take 6 months. How is it on one line? I don't even understand. And then I've got 3 other things underneath it to get accomplished.
Right.
You have a new podcast. Let's talk a little bit about that and who we're going to hear from, because, I love Decluttering Your Life, and that's the title.
Yeah, well, I mean, we just launched a couple of weeks ago. Hopefully, folks will be able to hear you when I get. We'll
Yeah,
we'll,
love
we'll
it.
switch the seats. I'll get to interview you, and you can share more about your journey. Because I mean, we met when my first book, Unstuff Your Life, first came out. I mean, we've known each other
Yeah,
for
we
quite
sure
some
did.
time. Yeah. So it's, again, because of the way that my work has evolved over the last 25 plus years, I'm really interested in talking about certainly the fundamentals of getting and staying organized. But again, I'm so much more interested in talking about mindset and how we break those unconscious patterns that, without examining them, just keep us stuck in that, on that hamster wheel, just on that endless loop of trying to get organized. So I talk often about that fork in the road, right? I mean, when we think about getting organized, really a long weekend, a pot of coffee, or a couple of Diet Cokes, you can get yourself organized. Staying organized is really where we want to keep the focus. And if you remember, I'm sure, the organizational triangle, right? One home for everything, like
Of
with like,
course.
something in, something out. This is what we use to stay organized. And if any professional organizer tells you or any of your listeners, right, like, there's a rule about how many pairs of shoes you're allowed to have, or how many sweaters or hats or coats or
Yep.
paper clips, It's all baloney. There are no rules. You can, if you have a 5,000 square foot house, you got a 1,000 square foot walk-in closet,
Right.
you can have 150 pairs of shoes. I'm not going to tell you that's too many pairs of shoes. What I am going to tell you is if you've decided 150 pairs is enough, when you buy the 150 first, it must be because you're ready to retire one of the other ones,
Yep.
particularly if you're living in that story of too much to do and not enough time.
Yep.
You got to ask
Yep.
yourself, what are you doing shopping? I mean,
Yep.
don't you already have enough of everything? So if you're not replacing something and you don't have time to write the novel or, prep your food, what are you doing in a magazine or a catalog or in the mall?
It's so true. Mindset is everything. By the way, if you do find that closet with 150 pairs of shoes, I would love to go live in there for a while. So just let me know.
Yeah.
I'll keep that thing organized, Andrew.
Yeah, I think Carrie
Where can
Bradshaw's got that closet.
Yeah, I think she does too. I could talk to you for such a long time. I have so many things to talk to you about. Where can people find you if they're looking for you? Because I feel like you have so much to give, especially during this time now where people are going through pivots and they're trying to figure out how to take that next big step and that next big chapter.
Yeah, sure. Well, they can find me at andrewmellen.com, and my last name is Mellen. And of course, we've got, depending on when this airs, we run these periodic de-stress your mess challenges. They're free. It's a free 5-day challenge. And our next one is coming up August 16th to the 20th, 2021. So, I mean, depending on when you're listening to this, you can always go back to our website and you'll find a link for the current one. But we're typically getting about 10,000 people signing up for these, which is so satisfying. I mean, right? I mean, clearly with COVID and the end of COVID or the hallway of COVID, wherever we're at in this journey right now, people are at home, they're working from home, they're surrounded by their stuff, and it's essential that they learn, again, not only how to tame the environment, but really how to change their thinking so that the environment stays tamed. If you're juggling kids, if you're juggling working from home, if you've got all of that happening in one space, it's even more critical that you understand where you end and the stuff begins. So you, as we said at the very beginning, right, that you feel that power and that sense of mastery and control over your environment, that you're not a victim bouncing around like a pinball, but you are in the driver's seat. We want you feeling like that fierce clutter warrior that I know everybody can become.
Yeah, absolutely. And I got to tell you, this last year, sitting around there staring at your stuff, you know why people are coming to you in droves. There's no question about it.
Yeah.
Right? Andrew, thank you so much for joining us today. And you can check out Andrew. We'll make sure we have all the links to everything he has going on because you'll want to sign up for it and take part. He really helped me and changed my mindset. You can join the conversation with me on social media at Tamsen Fadal or tamsenfadal.com. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit like, subscribe, or hit that notification button to be the first to know about new episodes of Coming Up Next. And if you're listening to the Coming Up Next podcast, leave me a review. Would love to hear what you have to say and if there are any inspiring guests that you want to hear from. I hope today's show has helped you out. I'll see you next time.